This is TWiT.
Intel and AMD. Intel, I don't know if you have like a funeral dirge you can play right now, but they're not doing great. So net loss of $454 million and revenues of $15.3 billion, 22% decline year over year. Their biggest business, of course, is what they call the client computing group. This is the group that makes the microprocessors for PCs. Biggest year over year loss was of 25% to $7.7 billion in revenues. Intel says that they have seen a reduction in PC sales of 10% in the quarter, and that with the poor economy, et cetera, is causing, the supply chain issues, all that stuff is the problem. But then we have AMD. AMD is kind of interesting. Yeah. They're the one non-asterisk company in this entire list. They reported a net income of $447 million on revenues of $6.6 billion. So what did I say from? So they're about not quite. They're more than half the size, but they're not nearly as big as Intel, obviously, by revenues. But every single one of their business units had double-digit growth, and I'm talking 20-something% or more, which is incredible. Their client segment, again, microprocessors for PCs, up 25% year over year. In fact, I think that was the slowest growth they experienced in the quarter, driven by strong rise in mobile sales, right? They also have a gaming segment, which I think we could kind of throw into that client segment as well, right? This is the Radeon cards and so forth. Another $1.7 billion in revenues, up 32%. Right? It's just crazy. Data center segment, up 83%, $1.5 billion in revenues. And then they have an embedded segment, which is up some insane amount because they had an acquisition, but another $1.3 billion in revenues. This was, I think, the only earnings report I read where I was like, yeah, this is the way it used to be all the time. And meanwhile, they're talking about we're already working on next generation 5 nanometer product shipments, blah, blah, blah. They're just going gangbusters. So I think the interesting thing about AMD clearly is its competition with Intel. It's always been a much smaller player. It's starting to close the gap a little bit here. Now,
I think it's isn't its market cap higher, or at least it was briefly.
Its market cap is higher. It was right on the day they announced this. That's true. And I'm trying to just say, so $2.2 billion in revenues.
That's stunning. If you had said 10 years ago, AMD's market cap will exceed Intel's, even for a minute, that's what?
So but again,
Intel has just tanked it.
But Intel, their language is like, look, we've hit bottom. We're making all these investments. We're doing fabs. I know. We're bouncing off the bottom. I'll just leave this one hanging out there. Is their client computing group, which arguably is the same as two of AMD's business groups, right? But $7.7 billion in revenue. So that's over 3 times the size of AMD's client segment. But if you add in the gaming segment, I think those all go together. It gets a lot closer. So it's about $4 billion versus 7.7. So AMD, logistically speaking, revenue-wise, is really about 50% the size of Intel.
Yeah, it's only about half as big.
They used to be like 20%, right? Like they've made significant gains.
Well, and this is in a quarter where PC sales were horrible, right?
Horrible. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep.
So,
horrible.
Intel lost $500 million. That's a lot of money.
It is.
So for a company like Intel to lose, and now they're building $20 billion fabs. So this is a very rocky situation.
Yep. Well, right. That's right. I think that, like so many other companies in big tech, they were artificially helped by the pandemic, and that this softness would have been seen 2 years ago.
Yeah, probably right.
And it is maybe necessary, is maybe unavoidable because of this transition they're making. I think we talked last week about this MediaTek partnership they had, and from Intel's perspective, it's like, see, we already have signed up someone from our fabs, and then you talk to MediaTek, and they're like, yeah, we're only using it for the old stuff because they can only manufacture like 11, 10, maybe nanometer.
Isn't that sad?
We need 3, 2, blah blah blah, whatever. We're going to Taiwan for that stuff.
But that's why there's $52 billion in the CHIPS Act. For American companies.
I think, by the way, soon to be $288 billion. And Intel has themselves, it's got to be in the $200 billion range between Europe and the United States, the various facilities. They're pouring money into these things.
There's an interesting clause in this money from the federal government, the U.S. government. You may not continue to do stuff in Asia. So
yes, that's right.
It's really, you know what, the chip business is in a big turmoil right now. It's very interesting to see what's going to happen.
I wonder how this is going to impact Frito-Lay.
But then the government throwing in hundreds of billions of dollars into it really muddies the waters. It's like,
it does.
Wow.
Hey, remember how all those companies in China were colluding with the Chinese government? Yeah. We're doing that.
Well, we should, shouldn't we? I mean, I think
you got to
that's probably
compete on an investment.
There's no choice, is there?
I mean, it's a good investment.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really I'm glad I don't invest in tech stocks. That's all I can say. It was a crazy week. I picked, so I'm looking, I'll tell a story on myself. I'm looking at the market. I knew that all these results were going to come in last week. I knew we were going to get GDP numbers last week. And I thought, I'm getting out of stocks. Just, sometimes I do this where I just go, I'm going to sell it's all index stocks. It's all index funds, right? So, it's the market as a whole. So I'm going to get it and put it in a stable value fund. And as soon as I do, the S&P has the best week it's had all year. You should watch me, and when I sell my stocks, you should buy. Nice. I am such an idiot, So now
I must have told you my big tech big tech stock story. I must have told you
what?
This is 25 years ago. My father, it was right around the time Microsoft was involved with all the antitrust stuff. My father came to me and he's like, I'm like investing in Intel and Microsoft. They drive me crazy. Every time Intel's competitors announce something, the stock price goes flying down. Every time Intel announces something, they go flying up. And I'm like, that's normal. And he's like, well, what about this Microsoft thing? Is the government going to break them up? What am I going to do? I'm like, Dad, this is a win-win. Think about it. Either they win this case, in which case they emerge victorious, the stock's going to go through the roof, or they get split up. And then you're going to own stock in 2 or 3 different companies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're golden. And then they settled. and then the stock just...
As long as he continued
for 10 straight years.
It for another 20, he's
okay.
now
we'd be golden. But he had to sit through 10 years of Steve Ballmer and $30 a share. And, the stock didn't go anywhere for a decade.
It's irrational. That's the problem with the stock market. Yeah, don't listen to me either. I told my dad to sell his Apple stock when Steve Jobs died. That was smart. He didn't, thank goodness. Our parents should not take advice from us, and I promise not to take advice from my son on the stock market. But the stock market's irrational, I mean, that's the problem. It doesn't have anything to do with anything.
What's happening?
For me to assume, they're going to see this GDP go down and they're going to go crazy. No, they went up.
Yeah.
We have our kid and his friends all invested in Bitcoin, I guess, and we'd only just found this out. And I was like, I swear to God, I was like, if you're telling me now you're going to retire, I'm going to come over there and kill you.
Well, now he's asking. He's got his hand out. Probably.
Yeah. No, he actually got out of it, so they made some money in there.
Oh, good. Yeah. What is it with the youngs? Both my kids want to do NFTs and crypto, and I keep saying no. And they say, "Well, Dad, you're just a boomer."
When it comes to money, boomer. I've always been the most conservative person on earth, and I just don't ever take risks.
Yeah, that's the smart.
Yeah.
And as one of our advertisers always says, time in the market beats timing in the market. And I wish I would listen to that.
That's true.
And just let it ride. Let the chips ride. Problem is, I'm retirement age, right? I don't have a lot more time.
You don't want to ride anymore. Yeah. You want to start cashing.
Basically, I was thinking, you know what? I have a pile of money. I know it's going away.
Wait, how old are you now? I'm sorry.
65.
65. Oh, geez. So you could...
I could start... I could start withdrawing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have enough to live on for the rest of my life. But my fear was that it would be slowly disappear. Of course, with inflation, having it in a 2% stable value fund isn't really good either. I don't know what to do.
But you'll hold off on Social Security as long as
till you're 70 and a half.
And then that's just going to be like this bonus,
Yeah, it's like $4,000 a month for nothing.
That's incredible.
Nice.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I know. All this time earning. Let's just hope they don't shut it down.